Well, good evening. Hi, we're here at PACA 2, and tonight our guest is Brian Blutreich, and we're headed to the throws world. Brian has been all over the collegiate world, very definitely, and he was with me in 92. Were you on the 96 team also?
92 team.
92 team as a discus
Yeah.
thrower. So
No,
he's been at the top of the game and he married an Olympic javelin thrower.
correct.
So they definitely have the throws tied up. But Brian has been at North Carolina, Oklahoma, where else?
Arizona State.
Arizona State, should have known that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
All
now is
over.
up at the University of Oregon.
Yeah.
Brian is a UCLA Bruin and competed there back collegiately, and then has taken his expertise to the college world. And again, we're very blessed to have him tonight because he's had an excellent response with both men and women throwers. We have the Turner Washington on the men's side, Maggie Ewing on the women's side, Jorinda Van Klinken. Is that how you
Yeah. It's the J. It's your Yorinda
Sure.
Van Klinken.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And she was at ASU and then finished up at Oregon with you. And
Yep.
then his latest protege, Jada Ross, was our top U.S. thrower at the Olympics in Paris, but
Mhm.
she also was fourth at the Paris Olympics in the shot and was just a few centimeters off
Uh,
the
don't
podium.
remind me. Don't
I
remind
know,
me.
I know. I looked that up today and I was like, oh no,
Four
that
centimeters. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, so
Yep.
that
Oh.
oh, it's and the thing that was so unique, I guess, with the Paris shot put was obviously the uh favorite or one of the favorites going in, Chase Jackson, had trouble in qualifying, didn't make it to the finals.
Mhm.
Sarah Minton, the Canadian, who had been doing pretty well,
Yeah.
was one of the last qualifiers. So everything kind of took a twist
It
with that.
did.
How did
Mhm.
how did you perceive it there as the coach?
Um, well, I mean, that's why you have the meet. I mean, Chase and I think Sarah was actually the favorite. And she didn't make she made the final, but she didn't make the small final. It started raining. The first couple rounds it was raining and it wasn't supposed to rain, and that circle wasn't great with the weather. So it happens, Adam Nelson, fouled out the Olympics, and
Yeah.
the greats of the greats have bad days, and you just hope it isn't on that day. But I think since we have a lot of rain here in Oregon, Jada did a fabulous job being her first international meet, period.
Wow.
Just amazing. And I had to do a lot of teaching of like we're in the village, and I was just like, I'm holding your hand right now, right? Like through everything is yes, coach, thank you, I appreciate it. And basically I just had to teach her how everything was gonna be, what we were gonna do. I think when people don't understand is you're in a village with a couple 10,000 people, you're eating, weird times, this, that, travel, and then training, you got to hop on a bus to a separate facility, and then you have to, it's just in the meet situation, like in the final, which people don't understand is because usually you just go to meet, you warm up and you throw. Well, here we had to go, from the village to the stadium, then on a bus, and they had to catch another bus to get to the warm-up area. And then you have two rings with, 30 something people, or at the final, it's probably what, 12 people. So even the prelims was 30 something. And so we actually went early and just, I didn't want to deal with all the other people, just her watching. So we went even earlier, did a little bit of a warm up, went back to the stadium, and then waited a bit and did another warm up to kind of, finalize what's going on. We couldn't throw over there. And then call room one, where you're staring, everyone, she's just staring at all the world's best, and she's never been with them. And then we have to go all the way across the stadium, call room two, and then sit there, and then walk in the stadium. She was the first thrower in the final,
Mm.
and then it was like, okay, you warm up, you take your two or three throws. Then they walk you back off the track under the stadium, wait again, and then introduce you. You come out, the process is like over an hour and before you even take your first throw. And she went out and just blasted it and, did a great job. I mean, most people just struggle and just die, when it's your first major. And she really stepped it up. And just to get to Olympics, five of the top 11 women in the world are in the US. So making the team it's just itself was just phenomenal. But then to become the best, American on that day or those 2 days,
Mhm.
she was kind of like tired of everyone calling her, you're just a baby and you're just so young and you're this and you're that. And oh, it's so nice. And then she went out and beat them all. And it was like, no, I'm not a baby anymore.
Right, I'm here to play.
So what people understand is like you have to teach that process, and they have to go through it, obviously. But I think we really try to plan out everything every day to know, train with some people that you've never trained before, and train with Raven is obviously a interesting challenge. But I think she did everything she could. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, that's what coaches need to understand and athletes too, is that when you get to an international level, not even the Olympics necessarily, but like world championships and even some of the major international, it is not just go out and warm up and throw. I mean, it's a major process. And like coach is saying here, you've got all these call rooms and bus rides and everything else. The fact that you had gone through that as an athlete and then as a coach earlier, how did that play into it? Was that helpful, you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was one of those people, my first international was the Olympics. And, I did walked in there and I was like, oh, 1, 2, 3. All right, you're done. See ya. Good looking for you. It was just like, we had to warm up, pre-dawn. I was in the first flight. It started at what, 9. So we had to be, first call room at, I don't know, some god awful hour. And it was dark when we were warming up. And, it was just, everything's just different. So,
Right.
I always tell coaches to try to get your kids in as many big environment situations as possible in high school and everything like that. Because, the state meet for high school is the biggie. You're like, oh my God, state meet, it's different. And then obviously when you get to the college level, it's conference meet is a biggie. Then regionals is even harder. And you get to nationals and you get to come here to Eugene and oh my God, look at the stadium. And there's a lot of like, oh my Gods in that.
Yeah,
So we kind of have to
definitely.
teach the oh my gods out of them as best we can, and kind of do the old, if you've seen the movie Hoosiers,
Hmm.
they walk into that stadium. Okay, it's the rim's still 10 feet high. Well, the circle's still 7 feet wide. It's just similar stuff, and just teach them how to be in their own rhythm and their own, in their own world,
Right.
and teach them how to, but they have to go through it.
Hmm.
And, some of the greatest ones I've had, Laura Garrity, who was an Olympian herself. And she's like, Coach, everything you taught me was right. Like how I was supposed to feel and how I was gonna feel with the nerves and this and that and how to, because I just had to go through it
Right.
to learn it. But everything you said was correct. So from a coaching standpoint, when she said everything you said was you're spot on, well then that gets her to trust me more as well, as a coach, and kind of help her through that time. And it's a lot of teaching involved.
Right. And even if, as a coach, if you personally are not an Olympian, which 90%, if
Sure.
not higher, coaches are not Olympians, it's, learning from you or learning from the other
Mhm.
elite level athletes, what is the process? And that way you can teach your athletes that you're working with what's going to happen. What would you say is your overall philosophy for throwing?
In guard, in terms of what?
Well,
In terms
like
of
just
technique or in terms of training or in terms of,
let's start with technique. Like
well, I
you.
mean, every event has its own technique. I've kind of from my college days till now, I've kind of I still use some stuff that I learned from my coach, But I've also been all over the world or talking to other coaches or other athletes, elite level athletes, of what they do and how they do it. And I've kind of pieced together my own kind of, technique. But when I recruit, I have to recruit a specific type of athlete who can do those kinds of techniques. If I recruit someone who doesn't have the ability to do what I'm trying to teach, then it doesn't matter. So, but as a coach, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but
Mhm.
um, every kid you get is different, no matter what level you're at. So you have to find what works best for them. And you have to learn all kinds of different techniques, all different types of adjustments um, to uh, to make them maximize their potential. Because as coaches, we're here to maximize their potential. And we don't know what that is. And that's what I love about coaching is to see how far we can push it together as a coach athlete relationship. And, you know, what they give me, I kind of give back to them. That's a tough when you're, in a situation where you got kids who are kind of just there for PE, or you got kids who are actually into it a little bit, or are they just super into it? And
Right.
you kind of have to adjust to their levels and hopefully inspire them to want to keep doing more and more and better and better. And as we all know, once you get a little success, it kind of becomes a drug. It's like, oh, I can do that. Oh, well, okay, if you do this, then maybe we go a little farther. And you just kind of keep pushing them, nudging them, and keep doing the work that you're doing as a coach, and try to keep them better, getting better. Because I have kids like Jada Ross was like when I took over her, like last year, because I started with her as a third year person. I didn't have her from the start. And then last year was a fourth year, and I said, hey, you got to keep the Olympics in the back of your mind. I had to plant that seed. Like, if you keep doing what you're doing and keep improving, you're gonna have, you're gonna go to the Olympic trials. You're gonna be one of those people. And she's like, "What? Really?" Like, she had no clue and about making Olympics, But if I didn't plant that seed in her head and kind of keep working towards that and pushing her, it was hard because I had to push past conference. I had to push past
Mhm.
regionals. I had to push past to keep her training because you can only hold on to a peak for so long. And I was really, and then she had making the team. But if I didn't put that in her head, she would have never even thought about going to the trials or making the team or whatever. So, but from a technique standpoint, I can't really go over all my technique, but
Okay. Yeah.
I just developed some patterns and some ways of doing things that have worked over the years, and we just kind of keep trying to refine it. And then, like I said, everyone moves differently. You got taller people, shorter people, bigger people, faster people, slower people, depending on what your event is. And then you have to make up kind of a plan for them.
Hmm.
And but every event area has its basics, but some people are more flexible, some people are more,
Sure.
everyone's just different. And that's where I think you have to develop as a coach is the ability to teach.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can have all the knowledge in the world, but you have to have the ability to teach. And I always tell people, well, if I'm going to have heart surgery, I want the doctor that got A's, not the doctor that got C's. And I want the person because the ability to teach is everything. It is everything about coaching. It's the ability to teach. And I've always been good at that. My ability to see movement, my ability to understand movement and understand sequences, and then when to say things about what sequence and when and how to set up those sequences in a way that they're going to learn and grow and build upon and all that. But my secret has always been about my teaching. And um, my coach in college, like, you got the eye. I go, the eye for what? He goes, I'll let you know when you're a senior. But my God gift is my vision. I see movement. My wife, who was a thrower, she used to coach. It's like, how do you see that? And I'm just like, well, that's just my gift. My gift is my
Yeah.
ability to see and my ability to make complicated things seem easy.
There you go.
And, I'm not the coach that's going to be like, biomechanicist or whatever you want to call that, how you call it, say that. I'm like, put it here, put it here, put it here. Okay, let's try to move through it. And I have a really good ability to make difficult things sound easy. Like, really, that's it, coach? Like, yep, that's it.
Hmm.
Let's do it. And you try to make it more complicated, it's hard.
Well,
So
that's it. Some people try to use all these fancy terms,
sure.
and it's like you say, it's teaching with that.
Yeah.
David, you say you've got some questions for Coach.
Yes. So stemming off that last point that you just made, um, how much do you use video like at either practice or competitions? Because I know,
Sure.
that's a big thing with any athlete as coach. I don't see it. I don't feel it.
Right.
Do you use video a lot?
I do. Some people are visual learners. Some people can just take what you say and do it. I got both. Um, so yeah, we do video every practice. I don't want to get too much in the video because kids will start becoming too mechanical. Like they're like looking at every slow piece, like and you don't want to ever lose that rhythm and timing of your events, and especially the field events. And so we use it. Sometimes we use it a lot. Sometimes, when we're just in the beginnings of things. But yeah, in the meet, now that the NCAA rules allow me to show video to kids at meets, we can do that now, which I think is a great help. Because it kind of gets them over me, calms them down. Hey, we just got to do a little of this, and that's it. Because in the meets, I don't talk about much. I just say, hey, think about one thing, but I'm not going to go. Well, you got to do this, 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 and this. Well, you can't do that in a throw. You can't think about three or four things at once. It's like one thing, and that's it. You have to prepare your kids. But to answer your question, we do use it, some more than others. Some kids I can just tell, go ahead and do it, and they do it. Or I demonstrate myself a little bit. I'm not quite that enough old. I'm 58 now, but I can still do some technical stuff. But I'm getting to the point now when I have recruits like, no, you need to demonstrate for me.
That's right.
But yes, I think it's a very important because for me, I tell the kids, if I see what you're doing is correct and you feel the same thing and you feel it's correct and I see it's correct, then we're on the same page. If you feel it's right and I see it's wrong, then we watch it, then we're not on the same page. So we kind of use the video to get ourselves on the same page of what we're talking about, because what I say sometimes the kids take it differently on what I say. They're like, oh, that's what you mean. Okay. So you kind of have to learn your student athlete and understand how they work. And then also, and I think that's the whole fun part of coaching is getting to know these kids and getting on the same page as them and really kind of seeing where you can go with it.
Gotcha. With um with Jada, it's kind of a two-part question. Going into the trial, I know you said that it wasn't really on the radar originally.
To make the
But
team, yes.
right to make the team, excuse me. Um, was there anything that you did to make her uncomfortable or anything so that way? Because it's very unique that she's competing at home to make
Hmm.
a US team. Did you
Sure.
mention that to her at all, or was that factored
No,
in?
we used it as a positive. I go, you're at home. You understand if you're an Oregon Duck, the fans know who you are. If you watch her, her last throw at NCAAs when the shot hits the ground and the whole stands, yelling and screaming. So we have a little bit of a home field advantage here. It's her ring. She understands it. But I think what I did was because she's never been around the top women like Maggie or Chase or Raven or Joe. I mean, so what I did was I had her talk to Joe Kovacs. I said, "Hey, Joe, what do you think? What do you think she needs to, because it was her first gigantic meet. So, and people like Joe just like they make it seem like it's ho hum. Like, okay, yeah. And so I tried to get it in her head that with all these superstar kids, people, and that they're just average people like her, right? It's not like, oh my God, that's so and so or that's so and so. The moment you do that, you're done. You got to feel like you're part of it to even have a chance. So, she had thrown far enough. She had thrown 20 meters, first collegiate girl to ever throw 20 meters. So I just had her talk to just different coaches of the elite people and just hang around, during practices here and talk to, an Ashley Kovacs, a Joe Kovacs, Ryan Krauser, um, and just so she can see they're just normal people
Mhm.
like herself and get her feeling a little more comfortable being around them because she's never competed really against them. So once you start feeling a little more comfortable and being at your home place, you get a little more comfortable and it's like I said, it's still the preparation of getting how do I make her feel more comfortable, right? So, just because the moment you're in your first big meet, your first state meet, or your first, conference meet or whatever, oh my God, that's so and so, or oh my God, that's so and so. We gotta get the oh my gods out, because people come here and they go in the stadium, they're like, ooh, wow. They look at the stadium, right? It's really pretty. And next, you're not focused on what you need to be focused on. So, like I said, it's just teaching that process of where we're going to warm up, how we're going to warm up, where you have to go, what you have to do, and get in there and just do your thing. So, um, and I think that's for every level. I think you take that for every single level, conference meet, whatever it is. Big invitational for the first time. You got a freshman kid, like, oh my gosh.
Did being at home create another sense of a problem? There's the comfort level, but also the stress of being at home.
Um, it can be. That wasn't Jada's problem.
Okay.
I didn't have to worry about that because she's thrown here a ton. It was her fourth year, and she'd been to NCAA, she's been to all the meets here. She's from Oregon, so
Mm,
she competed here in high school, and I didn't have to worry about that issue. But yeah, but now what we're finding a little bit is now because she was like a nobody, and now she's a somebody.
yeah.
And so that's a whole nother level of coaching and teaching is how to not look back.
Mm,
Can't look back. And you got to keep moving forward. And you can't have the pressure of, oh my God, I have to do this or I have to do that. Because before, when you're chasing something, it's a lot easier.
yeah.
So your mindset has to change to be like, no, I'm just going to keep going and pushing until I win, like win the USA's or win the Olympics or win, whatever it is.
Mm,
Just keep pushing forward like you did to get here. But now with her personally right now, she's going through a lot of personal struggles and she's struggling training and a lot of off the field stuff that's really affecting her. And, that's also part of, how do we get the best out of somebody? Well, you
mm,
got to be connected with them because a lot of these kids, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes
right.
from family, this and
Definitely.
that. And she's struggling right now, but it's out in the open now. It's just hope it's not too late, too little too late for the indoor season.
Mhm.
But at least we got to the heart of it and she opened up about it. And that's half the thing is like, I was just like, whoa, whoa. Okay. I
Yeah,
can see
just acknowledging
struggling
that
right now.
there's
So
concerns. Yeah. David, do you have some more questions?
I do have two more
Oh,
questions.
no
Thank you.
problem. No
Um,
problem.
with in the men's competition in the shot put when it started raining, right? Um, are there things that like is there something that you would have done different? Like if you had I don't know if you had an athlete in that specific competition, but any kind of anecdotes that you have to share with us as far as specific footwear or things that the
yeah,
athletes can do to prepare for that?
sure. We have like here in the US, we can use different shit. I have different kinds of bottoms, different types of rubber. I've made special specific rain shoes, which are great. But when you get to that level, you can't have anything. The say the Nike shoe has to be the original Nike shoe. You can't add a surface to it. So so you kind of have to change your technique a little bit. If it's super slick, you kind of have to slow down out of the back, try to hit, and that favors different people. Like if you're a little slower, like Ryan Krauser, you can just kind of trot through and just bang the finish. If you're a speed thrower, it's just the whole, you're kind of out of luck. So that's why people are slipping and sliding. But you have to change a little bit. Like the young lady from Germany who won, she actually reversed tape on her shoes, which I don't think was legal at the time. But then her winning throw, she didn't have that tape on anymore because the ring dried up. So we were going to protest it because you can't add things to your shoe. Um, but like some people will put a sock on their shoe to make it a little bit rougher. But we watched the video of their winning throw and she didn't have anything on her shoe. So we're like, oh, okay. We're not gonna that would have moved Jada up. But but I think really it's how you deal with it. Like you got to train in it a little bit. Like you just got to get used to like cold, like where you guys are at, cold, wet. I think you got to, instead of just being inside or doing, you got to get out in it and learn how to deal with it. Because if your first rain meets a gigantic meet, you're going to freak out just mentally. You're just not going to want to throw hard or be aggressive. So, we intentionally get out in the rain. We intentionally get out in certain situations, so we can handle it as best we can. We struggle with the heat a little bit when we go down to Tucson because it could be super hot and it's 50 degrees warmer than where we're at. And so yeah, we have to be sure to get underneath, hydrate, stay out of the sun, and something we just can't prepare for. Or when I was at ASU, we come to Oregon, it's like, well, it's 100 and now it's going to be 45, 50 and raining. Well, how do we can't really prepare for that because we don't have that environment. So so even at ASU, even if the 3 days it rained a year, we would get out in it and try to do stuff in it. So I think you just got to, if it's snowing, it's cold, whatever, they look at what was the big sky meet last year where it was like
No,
snow.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, well, okay. But I think you just got to, intentionally, for us, I'd throw water in the ring like when I was at ASU. Some people just like put a hose or something and just spray water like it's raining because like in the discus, you can't have wet. So how do we keep the hand dry? So we stick the hand underneath the sweatshirt, pull it out right when we go and throw. So there's different things you can do instead of just standing out there in the rain, your hand's getting wet. Well, what's going to happen? It's just going to slip. So there's different ways of no matter what event it is, to keep your sweatshirt on or whatever you got to do. And but you got to think of everything. You got to be creative as a coach. And no matter where you're going, it's like, okay, well, how are we going to do this or how are we going to do that? I don't know. So for us, we just try to create everything for whatever specific, more chalk, more, always have a towel over your hand, get in the ring, drop the towel, go, or have the disc on your sweatshirt and go. Javelins, you got to keep that cord dry. So like what I would do is I'll bring a couple javelins and we won't even use them in warm-ups. They're going to be wrapped up. I'm going to have like the handle's going to be wrapped up the whole time, and we'll warm up with some other ones. So when it hits the ground, it gets all wet. Next thing you know that it's getting slick. You got to spray. You can't spray on the javelin, but you can spray on your fingers, some stick 'em, and how to keep it. So there's a lot of different things you got to do to prep. So my javelin's not 1,000 grams because the handle's soaked. It's going to stay 800 grams and it's
Right.
going to be dry. I'm going to be able to flick it. So, just little things like that.
You mentioned the shoes, and David, I'm just going to interrupt and then we come back to yours, no problem. And I was aware of this now that the meets are checking shoes more and more
Mhm.
with that.
Mhm.
And you mentioned putting a sock on the shoe when it rains.
Yeah,
Is
can
that
do that.
legal?
Uh, no one said it isn't, to my knowledge. So, like I said, I have two different kinds of shoes. So here in the US, I will probably use my rain shoes. Even at NCAAs, we've used rain shoes here. When Maggie Ewan beat Valerie Allman here in the rain, she had a special set of shoes I had on her, and she didn't slip at all. Rinda Van Klinken was kind of the same way a little bit. But when Yorinda's going to all of her Diamond League meets, she can't wear those shoes.
Well, see, that's what's
So,
interesting because Allison, who's on this call, was at a indoor meet in Reno at their new place up there,
mhm.
and she said they were checking. She's a high jumper that they were checking the shoes, and if it's not on that World Athletic list,
Yeah.
you couldn't do it. So now is this, and I don't think that's becoming a common situation in the US yet, but if now all of a sudden it's going to be,
Yeah,
what does that do for these specially made shoes for special
sure.
people?
Yeah, like Valerie I think she's with Asics or whatever she is,
Yes.
but Asics made her a specific rain shoe.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but you have to check in one pair. So I don't know if I would like to ask her that question is like, is that rain shoe legal or
Yeah.
is it
That's
not
what I think.
legal? Does everyone have to have access to that same shoe
Right.
or,
Right.
but if Asics made it, then, I'm going to the local cobbler and putting
Mhm.
other stuff on the bottom. So,
I think
um,
it's something we need to check
have to
into.
check
So that,
into for sure.
yeah.
For
I'm
sure.
David, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just thought that with the shoes.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's very useful. You mentioned like a difference with like a speed versus a power thrower. When say you're at practice today and you have five, six different throwers and they all have different entries, they all have different abilities. How do you go about, because sometimes the athlete can get not frustrated, but they maybe get confused with hearing a cue that you give one athlete, and
Hmm.
then now they're starting to do it, but their entry needs to be a little different, so on and
Hmm.
so forth. How do you kind of divvy out those cues and whatnot to the athletes? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. You have to explain why you're doing that with them. That's the biggest thing. It's like, hey, so and so is doing a different or taking, say, a jumps. You're a jumps coach, right? Jumps or
I
sprints?
do sprints and multis as well.
Okay, so a little bit of jumps. So, or even like your high jump, like, well, how come she's taking more steps than me? Or how come you're having her run faster than me? Or like if you're a power triple jumper or something, you know, you have to tell these kids why they're doing it. That's the biggest thing. They don't still want to go my way or the highway. So every athlete you have, you're telling them why they're doing that. And they're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. They don't know. And well, how come so and so is doing it this way? Well, because they're either stronger or they're faster or they can't handle that much speed. So I'm having them do this. Um, I'm having you do that. A lot of coaching is trial and error, right? So everyone's going to be a little different, like you talked about. But we have to find out what works best for them, whether the entry is different or faster or slower, or, when I have a tall person in the shot, the technique's gonna be a little different than a short person in the shot. Just because the big person can't use that much ring where the short person can use more ring, just based on their height and weight. So I think the biggest thing is really explaining why you're doing something, and that's when you get them to buy in. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, um, I have a new javelin thrower, and he's tall and long, and man, his like steps are longer, and everything's just longer, and so he's throwing a little differently. A lot of things, some of the things are the same, but man, he needs a longer approach because he's just so long. And but then like I said, I think this communication is everything. And once you tell them why you're doing something, maybe compare it to another athlete you've had, an older athlete. Well, she's doing this because she can blah, blah, blah. She can lift more, she can do more, she's more dynamic, blah, blah, blah. Or you're not quite there yet. You don't have the same lifting. You don't have the same muscle maturity. You don't have the same, a lot of other things. So eventually, when you get there, we might do the same things. But for now, you're doing it this way because this is how we're going to maximize what you can do right now. And then build that into down the road. Like, hey, down the road, if you can figure these things out, I'd love to have you try this. But right now, if you try to do super advanced stuff and they can't handle it, then there's no point. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You all that set, David, for now?
Yes, thank you, Sue.
Okay. Jim, excuse me, you had a question for Coach?
Yeah, yes, coach. As a high school coach, what technique would you teach first in the shot? The glide or the spin? Does it matter?
It does. I think it does. I think you have to learn the glide first when they're young because it teaches them how to be linear. It teaches them how to strike on a linear plane. Don't have all this rotation and just everything going right, left. They have no idea. So um, I'm a big fan of younger kids learning how to, strike the shot, how to strike the shot. That's a lost art now. Because when these kids all start spinning, they have no idea how to give it direction, how to push it. They just kind of turn and just let it go. Um, but to develop the power positions, how to use the legs, how to keep the ball back, how to strike the shot, a lot of things, the basics of what's in the rotation come from the glide. So in high school, I didn't start rotating until I was a sophomore. Um, but I was a glider my middle school and freshman year, and then I started doing rotation. It's really hard to take kids that like I have to teach kids the basics in college, like from the what should be freshman year of high school. I got to start freshman year of college and teach them how to do these things. Just so, we can do it. Like you look at Ryan Krauser, well, he was a glider in high school, all the way through high school. And then like you watch how he rotates, his finish is so good because he learned how to glide first. He knows understands direction. He understands how to push on the shot forever instead of just spin by it. You see a lot of pros, they just spin by it and they kind of slap at it, which is great, but not all the energy is going into the shot. And that's what you want. And that's why Ryan, I think, is so one of the reasons why he's so good, because he used to be a really, really good glider. He threw 70 something feet gliding. So I think to answer your question, yes, I think it's super important.
Thank you, sir.
And some people in high school, they get just really good gliders. I mean, I did my first job, I did a camp and this kid was a great glider. And then he went to college at Cal Poly and SLO and they switched him to the spin and he was throwing 10 feet less. And I'm like,
Wow.
well, why in the heck are you spinning? That coach thinks it's the best. I go, well, I think 10 feet farther is better. So, uh, so he ended up, I think he ended up going back to glide. I'm not sure, but some people are just natural gliders, some people are natural spinners, but you can teach someone to glide and start learning the rotational movements. Maybe start them their sophomore year, but so they have a little head start some rotational movements like drilling, different types of drills, this and that. But that when they're first learning it, when they're first learning it, I think we got to go with the glide.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
DeMarcus, you're up.
Hi. So I know all those coaches throw us wise. We run into athletes like these, but it's an athlete that shows a lot of potential, shows that they can do really well. But as you start working with them, they start to verge on the point of being almost uncoachable. Not quite there yet, but they're verging on it. What would your approach be when it comes to working with an athlete like that, making the adjustments so that one, that athlete moves away from being an uncoachable athlete, but also improving yourself as a coach?
Uncoachable. What do you mean in terms of uncoachable? Like bad
So
attitude
like
or I don't
uh
care
like
or I
not
think
being able to
you're
pay attention, not listening, constantly doing their own thing, and every time you give them something to do, it's almost like, okay, and then does almost the opposite of what you ask of them.
yeah, well, they wouldn't be in my squad very long if they don't listen to what I'm doing. I'm trying to tell you. Um, is it an immaturity thing? Or are
I
they
think
out like
part of it,
are they out there for P credit or are they just like, why are they out there? That's the first reason. You have to ask them, why are you here?
yeah.
Like, why are you out here? This is in see when you have an individual sport, You need intrinsically motivated kids because it's not a team sport where it's like we throw the ball around or we kick the ball around. And this is like, as my dad always said, the tape measure never lies. So you have to have a different type of mindset. Um, so that's the first thing. Why are you here? Um, because then I give you how to work with them. Like you said, like for my kids, well, if I was in your situation, like, hey, I'm going to give you what you give me. If you're just kind of half-assing it, well, I'm gonna half-ass it as well. Like back. Now, my really kids are really into it. Well, they're going to get a little more attention. So if you want a little more attention, you got to give me a little more. They're like, whoa, okay. So then they kind of sees if they grow or they, can move from there. But you also have to make it fun. Throwing can be very boring. And it's like rep after rep after rep. In today's world of social media where it's all just, I gotta have it, have it, have it, have it. Throwing is a whole different, track's a whole different deal. So, we'll have like competitions I would have competitions all the time, because when you have competitions, you don't want to lose. So if you have competitions, maybe then it's like, oh, if you can start seeing just them getting a little bit better and a little bit better, like I said, it's a little bit of a drug. The moment you get better, oh, okay, if I work harder, well, maybe I can go a little farther. I get a little farther, well, you know what? I can do this. The next thing you know, you're doing better. I would throw like overhead comps or underhand comps, just keep competing because a lot of these kids don't know how to compete these days. It's either given to them or everyone gets a trophy or anything like that. Having a winner and a loser and push yourself to see how far you can throw something or how far you can jump or who can win a running race or just stuff like that at the end of a practice or something or before the practice to get them warmed up. Have some competition so they don't know you're kind of tricking them that they're not actually warming up, but they're having fun warming up. Um, and like I said, you kind of have to get on their level of how they work. That's the hardest thing as a coach because like you always want it like, okay, this is how I want to do it, but it's not working for the kid. So talk to them like, hey, what do you like to do? Hey, what gets you excited? Like I said, why are you here? What do you want to get out of this? And once you get to their level and understand why they're here, well, I just don't want to go home because my parents will blah, blah, blah. Or because a lot of kids, these parents these days, oh man, it's terrible. The stuff that these kids have to deal with these days, between alcohol and drugs and this and that, social media, what's out there, it's harder. So, I don't know if that makes sense. Any of that stuff makes sense to you at all? And like how to
Yeah.
become a better coach, it's if they're getting better, then you're doing your job, right? You might think they can be a lot better than they are, but they might not be ready for that. You might have some freakish athletes that are so gifted. That's the worst thing as a coach to have a kid that's super athletic and super gifted, but their mindset and their heart are just not in it. And then it just gets frustrating. They get frustrated, you get frustrated, and then things just don't end up well. So, like I said, if you can just get them an inch better or a foot better, or hey, look at, everything's about small improvements, but small improvements become big ones after a while if you just keep doing it and having fun with it. And, you know, I've had coaches with baseball, this and that. The mom was like, "It's pie time." I was like, "Pie time?" He goes, "Yeah, if you guys do this and win, we're gonna give you pies." It's just like, "Oh, okay." So being a 12-year-old kid, I was like, "Yeah, I want a pie." So, if they get their name on something like on a wall, or you have a top 10 wall, I always love top 10 walls because then they can kind of see where they're at or where they need to go to get on a top 10 wall. Oh, okay, the school record's up here. Well, I think I can do that in a couple of years. And it gives them something to look at and motivate them to try to get that. And it's always about trying to push and see. But if you give them something that they're looking at, then it's coming from their head and their brain, not just yours. And when I was at UCLA, we had a top 10 wall. I was like, oh, Well, everyone want to be on that damn wall, I'll tell you. And everyone want to be at the top of that wall. So, or just give them a printout of what the top 10 is, or, it's like, oh, really? That's it? I can do that. And then it motivates them to, do better. Hope that answers that a little bit.
What level do you coach at, DeMarcus?
NJCAA. I'm actually with Coach Burnett. I'm the throws coach at Iowa
Oh,
Western.
okay. Because I know you've been on a few times. So,
Mhm.
so for junior college, yeah. Um,
Yeah, the Yakini's killing me. Yakini's killing me, man.
Yeah, I had my fingers crossed. I would have loved Oregon as well.
Uh,
For
okay,
me, it's I'm
that's a
happy
whole
he's
different
down to
story.
home.
Anywhere else but
But
what he
still,
went, I'd be like, okay. But I'm just not a fan. So anyway, he's a good kid. I
yeah.
enjoyed him visit here.
No, I'm looking forward to helping him finish out his time here with us, and I'm hoping while he's still here to smash that national record in the discus
Yeah,
with him.
yeah.
Hopefully, we see it this year.
Yeah, so like on the community college scene, I mean, it's the same thing. It's not quite like high school. I was kind of talking like high school stuff, but even some of that motivation for the any level, like when I was at D1 at UCLA, I mean, we had that top 10 list. And so if you have a top 10 list of Iowa Western and kind of see where you're at, but yeah, he's at a level for someone like that, he's trying to break the national record.
Yeah,
So that's a different type of motivation. And he's a different type of kid, I think, that will listen to you and do what he needs to do. So
he's aggressively coachable. That's the term
yes,
I want to
yes,
use.
exactly. Exactly. So a kid like that, but you have other community college kids who are just kind of like, all right, you'll see a lot of them that are motivated because they may not have the talent, but I want to keep throwing in college because I really love to do it.
Mhm.
Or then it's just kind of like some kids are there and you're just like, oh, okay, well, my mom and dad want me to do this, but I don't really want to do it. Because once you get past high school, it's really got to be you have as a coach, you're gonna have to really like you really have to want this, right? And because it's not like high school PE or high school team type of stuff. Um, but it's a combination of a little, right? You guys travel together, you guys are on buses a lot, and you probably don't travel a ton of different places, but um, it's just the next step up. And hey, these are the expectations for this next step up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how far you throw, but we're trying to score at conference. That's the number one thing, correct? That's the number one thing you want is to be able to score a conference. And then as you get better, then you just kind of score to nationals or go to nationals. Then yeah, that's the ultimate motivation and ultimate goal for I think a college, especially community college. It's the same for us. Got to be able to score a conference, got to go to nationals. I mean, that's just kind of that's it's the way of the world of college sports.
right, right. Well, Brian, how do you work with a kid that is coming off of either a plateau or a negative performance? How would you work with them?
Like I am right now with Jada. Yes. Um, you get back to basics. I think in teaching, like with Jada, we got so advanced and so far, but it was only my third year with her. I'm sorry, my second year with her. Well, she hasn't learned everything yet. So when you struggle, you got to bring it back down. And we just went back the first couple of days here this week. We're just like, okay, we're going back to the basics. We haven't done this in a long time. Let's get back to this, get back to this, get back to the sequences, um, and just kind of tear it down a little bit and just let her mentally just not start freaking out even more. Because
Mhm.
if you're in a plateau or you're in a hole or it's not doing well, the harder you try, the worse you're going to get.
Right.
And then you're ingraining bad technique, bad mental, and everything's just bad, right? We got to get everything back to positive. So let's get back to those drills. Hey, that drill's good. Hey, keep doing that drill good. Okay, let's get back to like an easy turn or easy throw or easy drill and just do it correctly. Okay, that's better. Let's get back to some regular throwing. Okay, that's better. Oh, that wasn't great. Okay, let's bring it back. And all you're doing as a coach is we're trying to ingrain muscle patterns
Mhm.
and correct muscle patterns. Um, so for throwing, and I think a lot of field events is how many repetitions can you take correctly? The more you take correctly, the more rhythm and timing you're going to get down the road. So you don't have to think about it, you just do,
Mhm.
right? When you're learning or you're in the hole or this or that, you got to go back to basics, relearn. So you need to build a training base up, like a technical base up. So there's more positive repetitions than bad repetitions.
Mhm.
So depends. Sometimes I can speed it up when we're good. When we're not so good, I'll bring it back down and I will just go back to basics. I always tell the kids, if you do something positive every day, you'll get better. So if you have a really bad throwing day, let's have a good lifting day. Let's have a good jumps day. Let's have a good sprint day. Let's have a good video day. Let's do something positive today. Because sometimes your body rhythm is awful. You pick up a shot and you're like, I have no idea what this is in my hand. And then you start throwing it, it's terrible, 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 terrible. If you're high jumping, you just can't do it, right? High jump's probably the most mental of all those events because if you PR by like a half an inch, you're like you're a star, you know. So, um, but so for me, it's always like let's break it down. Even the best, you got to break it back down and start learning. So that's what we're doing right now, and we're trying to just get better for next. No, we have this weekend off. We're just going to try to get better the next weekend. We're not going to try to win nationals or throw that far. Let's just improve on what we did. And the more, like I said, the more positive repetitions we get, the better. And as a coach, you can't freak out and be like, oh my God, we're not doing this. Oh my God, you got to be here. We got to be here to do this. And then if the kids see you panicking,
Right.
they're going to panic too. They're like, oh my God, coach is panicking because they're already panicking enough.
Mhm.
Like after this weekend, I mean, Jada threw 9 feet off her personal best in the shot. Like that's horrendous. I just gave her a big hug. We'll talk about it later.
Mhm.
That's all we did. There's nothing we can
Sometimes
do
that
about it
is.
now. And because her training's been terrible. And like I said, a lot of life issues are hitting her, which is affecting her throwing.
Mhm.
But to get back to the question, uh, um, creating positivity, creating positive reps. As they get older, they're going to have a technical model that's better, and you won't have to go back so much.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think you always have to go back before you can go forward.
No, I
And
totally agree. Because even with, Charles Austin and some of my more elite level athletes, we always started with the basics every year. It's
yep,
just you got through them faster as the athlete gets better.
sure,
How do
sure.
you deal with an athlete who's coming off of a PR or a seasonal best who maybe isn't listening quite as much as you would like them to because they perform so well?
Right. Well, track will slap you in the face really quickly.
Very true.
If you're not listening and it's like, oh yeah, I PR'd and now I'm next week or next meet, I'm not doing well.
Mhm.
So we try to maximize our highs. So when we're training well, I'll just keep throw because we're ingraining good muscle patterns. And then I'll do that day. It was like, okay, we trained a lot more throws than we usually do. I'm going to lighten up in the weight room. Like I don't want to break them down because their body's broken down for all their training today. So it's how we adjust. Can you kind of ask that question again? 'Cause I kind of lost halfway through.
Well, I did know, like, if a kid's coming up, we said the plateau, you go
Yeah.
back to the basics. So the converse of that, like the kids coming off of PR,
Yep.
and, is there anything different you do with that if they're maybe not quite as willing to listen because they think they're all
Uh,
hot stuff that
the
they
hot
did?
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, once again, you kind of have to explain like why we're doing things. I
Mhm.
go, yeah, you did great this weekend, but I need you to do great at nationals.
Right.
The dual meet ain't going to do a thing. I mean, that's great. You're developing positivity, you're developing positive competition reps, because that's another thing. Competition reps and practice reps are totally different, totally different. And you have some people who are just love to compete and always, do better than average. You got some who are just scared to compete. So they do a little worse. But compared to because training is just easy because there's nothing on the line. Once the lights turn on, how do these kids perform? So I think to develop a maturity of the people who are PRing, which is great, which sometimes is harder on their teammates Like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I did bad and they did good. And next thing you know, you have this drama
Yeah,
because someone thinks they're the, you know what, and the other one doesn't like them, and now you're developing this team issue.
yeah.
So, and that's a whole nother balancing act of that. So, um, I just think you got to tell them, hey, we got to get better.
Mm.
This is great, but we got to do it when it really counts,
What are
right?
some commonalities between all the four events, the four throws?
Ooh.
Things that you,
There's not a whole lot of commonality because they're all different.
okay.
All just different implements. They're all different sizes and shapes and weights.
So
Uh,
nothing really carries over.
yeah, shot and discus a little bit,
Mhm.
but even the discus is done different than shot. So it's actually harder. It's hard to do both good at the same time because
Oh,
the timing and rhythm is different. So when the shot rhythm's really good and timing, well, it's different than the discus. So the discus suffers. Or the discus is getting really good. Well, then that's different timing and rhythm and technique than the shot suffers. That's really hard to get really good at both at the same time.
interesting.
And that's why you don't see as much combination throwing as you used to.
Right,
Uh,
yeah.
everyone's kind of more one evented, like Miklos and Lekna. He just does discus, or obviously javelin just does javelin. Um, you'll see more combo and shot and disc, or maybe shot and hammer, because shot and hammer are two different things. So there's two different rhythms.
I
So
see.
your hammer's not going to kill your shot rhythm, and the shot's not going to kill your hammer rhythm. But the shot and discus
Hmm.
does interfere with each other. And so if you can find someone who can do good in both events, because as a coaches, we're looking for points, right? So if they can
Right.
do good in two, then that's what we want. Javelin throwers right now are probably getting screwed a little bit with this new roster limits and this and that. I'm
Yeah.
seeing javelin throwers in the portal left and right because they're just getting rid of javelin throwers because all it can do is one event outdoors.
Mhm.
So it's like, that's a rough deal. So things are changing. But really at the highest of levels, they're all so different. It's hard to be really good. Now, if you're just, an average thrower and you can score some points, yeah, you can do three events. Like the women, I've seen women do three events at a high level. Maggie Ewan.
Maggie, yeah.
Maggie should have won the Bowerman. I mean, okay, she broke the NCAA record and won the shot at NCAAs. She beat Valerie Allman in the discus at NCAAs. She had a horrible hammer competition at regionals, didn't make it to NCAAs,
Hmm.
but she broke the NCAA hammer record that year. It's like, really? In three events, 240 or 74 meters in the hammer, 1940 something in the shot, and 62 meters in the discus. People don't understand like how crazy that is. Like the
Right.
young lady, the long triple jumper from Georgia won it that year. Okay, same runway, three. Well, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna. It's just like, okay, run and jump, and then run, hop, jump, whatever. I'm like, great. So I'm like, okay, cool. Can she high jump 6'5"? But that's basically what Maggie did. Two
Yeah.
completely different events, and a third completely different event broke the NCAA record. The throwers never won NCAA, won the
I was
Bowerman.
gonna say, yeah, the Bowerman gets first of all, I think it's very anti-field events usually,
Yeah,
but
generally.
see what you mean about the difference with the jumps and the throws.
Yeah, but
David,
yeah, I'm sorry. It's just
yeah, it is what it is.
it is what it is. And
Yeah,
she actually won. I mean, throwing's not the glory events, and I get it. She
yeah.
actually won the fan vote, which is crazy. She was NCAA Track and Field News Athlete of the Year. She won the Hondo Award. She won every award there was to win except for the Bowerman.
Oh, jeez. Oh, goodness
I'm
gracious.
sorry. That's just still a negative for me.
Not bitter at all, are you? David, what's up on your line there?
Something it said earlier brought up a question about fouling. What are your thoughts on fouling? Because I know there are some coaches that say I've heard some field event coaches say if you're not fouling, you're not trying. But how do you feel about fouling? throws in practice, fouling at meets,
Yeah.
is it acceptable for you as a coach?
No, I hate it. Um, our our technique is like say in the shot and the discus is the reverse is part of the technique. It's not something that keeps you in. It's part of our technique. And the more you practice not fouling and you practice how to reverse correctly, how to make your throw correctly, then it's just, when you get to the meet, you're not worried about fouling. You're just worrying about you're competing. Because if you're worried about fouling in the meet, what's going to happen? Someone tell me on this panel.
You're going to foul.
Well, or you're going to back off to
True.
not foul.
Yeah.
So when you're backing off, you're not throwing as far, nearly as far. So that's what it is. I like everything to be perfect from start to finish, reverse in the ring. So we just repeat that over and over and over and over again. So we get to a meet. Well, now we just have our natural drug of adrenaline and we get after it. And we're not worried about fouling. So, because when you're fouling in practice, that means you're doing something wrong in the ring, which means you're usually shifting. It's the weight, the shifting wrong, and it's making you go out of the ring. And that's not how you throw far. I mean, you might be able to throw farther by fouling, but that doesn't mean anything. It's still a foul. So I like to be aggressive without fouling. And so I teach my kids how to reverse correctly and how to handle it. And if you want to chase it a little bit more, this is how we chase it a little bit more, but not by changing our technique to make it go farther.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Now, if you happen to foul because you're trying to get after it a little bit more, okay, I get it. John Smith, who's a great coach at Ole Miss, he always talks about, well, big fouls become big throws. Like, okay, I get that. Because you're always trying to challenge yourself, right? And all the great ones will foul every once in a while, all of them. If it's like last round, they just try to use a little bit more on it, try to chase it out a little bit more, but they're not really changing everything to do that. Because if you blow out, if you blow out the front of the circle, then that means you're just complete ingraining poor technique, poor timing, poor rhythm. That's what I got.
Okay, let's switch a little bit here to how the training and how you integrate throwing and conditioning and weights and whatever. How do you set up a training program for a year?
Well, the summer I like them to not do, I like them to do like bike riding and doing athletic things that aren't just so weightlifting and throwing and all that. I like to CrossFit, cross train, get all those muscles working like a normal person again. Because if all the small muscles aren't conditioned and all that, then the big muscles are gonna break. Once the small muscle breaks, then the big ones are gonna go after that. So I like just to get athletic. Common philosophy for me, especially for the ladies, is I want you to be athletic. Like I need you to run, jump. I need you to be a big sprinter. All your great ones are just big sprinters.
Mm.
And I actually recruit kids like that, especially on the women's side. I had a young lady from where was she from? Michigan, and she had only thrown 43 feet, but some coach told me about her, and I told her, I said, hey, just show me your training, like running, jumping. Can you run and jump? Coach, I can run the 460 point. And I'm like, well, how much do you weigh? 230.
Wow.
It's like, okay, mass times acceleration. That's the basis of throwing. At least the shot disc world where she's in. And she ended up becoming an Olympian and NCAA record holder and blah, blah, blah. I recruited her when she was 43 feet, So to set up my training, yeah, summer is going to be more just conditioning, getting away from the sport a little bit. We will do some lifting in there, but it's going to be a lot of high repetitions, just stuff like that. Just getting lean and strong and fast. I always talk about strength to weight ratios. We want to get it to here, not here.
Mhm.
Um, and then in the fall, we'll do some like strength endurance stuff. Kind of, going from high reps to some medium to high reps, kind of some higher reps plus some lower reps. And then when we get to close to Christmas and all that for the indoor people, we're actually working pretty hard in the weight room. We're taking our getting to our strength levels up. Outdoor people only will still be more in a strength building phase. And still doing conditioning and strength stuff to get them by the time March comes around. Indoor people house we start a little earlier. So and then when we're in season, I don't try to change a lot from technique. Kind of when it gets to season, it is what it is. And then we just adjust little things,
Mhm.
right? We just adjust the little things. We're not doing any big major changes. We want to keep building that timing and rhythm. And then the end of year, from the technical standpoint, we break it back down. We start all over again. Like Sue was saying, we just start A, B, C, D. We do everything from a technical standpoint. But once in season, we kind of keep the training the same. We'll get more aggressive in our throwing. So we'll build up, do some aggressive throws, bring it back down. Every time at the end of the practice, we'll break it back down easy, finish up with some general technical model work. Because when they get tired, then they can't have control over their body as much. So we'll break it back down to keep getting those positive repetitions. Um, Obviously, throwing takes like a second outside of javelin. It's not very long. So when we get closer to season, we'll do a lot of speed work. We'll maintain some of the strength, but we're adding a lot of just like plyos and fast lifting and sprinting and all that. Um, yeah, then by the end, we're just, we're not doing a ton. We just want to feel good those
What
last
kind of
couple of weeks.
sprinting do you do?
I like to in the summers, it's not sprinting, it's more strides. I like to do like 200 meters on grass, everything on grass. Bigger people, joints. So you got to be careful of how big your kids are and what they can handle so they don't hurt themselves. But I
Mhm.
like, if my kid's in really good shape, I like to do like 200s on grass, repeats, walk a 200, run a 200, walk a 200, and like six of them.
Wow.
And then, as we get into it, I like to run some hills, about 60 meters of hills, repeat 6 to 8 times.
Mhm.
When we're getting closer in season, it's a lot of shorter stuff, just off the line, bang, bang, you know. Everything's about quickness and speed and reaction because that's what throwing is. Throwing is ability to move something fast, boom, and it goes, right? It's not like,
Right, exactly.
so now some kids don't have that kind of nervous system. So that's as coaches, you kind of have to be careful because they don't have the nervous system for that. You can't just kill them, right? So you have to find how many reps and what you can do to make them better because you can't train an 11 flat sprinter like a 10 flat sprinter. I don't think. I can't train kids like Krauser. Well, he's 20, 30 something years old. He can handle more. He can handle this. He can handle, he can handle more reps. He can handle this. But now, as he's getting older, he's going to have to do a little bit less because the body can't handle all that big repetition stuff that he was when he was 21. So training changes as you get older.
How do you
Uh,
decide how many throws? You say, the number of throws. How does,
sure. Way I do it every day, I don't really have a number, but I can tell when they're getting tired. And
yeah,
so when the technique starts breaking down, I'll like, you can one more me one time. Coach, I do another one.
exactly. Yeah, the
One more,
infamous
one
one.
more, one more. Next, you know, you did 10 bad throws.
Yeah.
So now we did 10 negative throws. No, you can one more me once. Otherwise, you're done. Um, so, and as they get older, they're like, oh yeah, I'm tired, coach. I'm like, okay, good, you're done. Like I said, but when they're doing really well, I just keep pushing them, pushing them, pushing them. Because when you're doing well, you don't want to stop that. You
Uh-huh.
just don't want to stop those repetitions. And you might get a little fatigued. That's why I changed the weight room or change the sprinting, change the jumping. We'll change up so we're not like completely killing you. Because when you get in the hole, it takes weeks to get out of the hole from the nervous system standpoint.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
Do you have off the track, do you have a nutrition or supplement program that you
Um, I got to be careful with that.
right?
From legal standpoints, we do have a nutritionist here. I'll talk to her about stuff, what's legal, not legal, because I tell these kids, like, you got to be careful against stuff from GNC or something like that, because it could be can't contaminated by the previous whatever they mixed in that machine.
Mm,
So I kind of stay away from it a little bit. If they have questions, I'll kind of answer them a little bit, but then I'll kind of these days, 20 years ago, I'll be like, yeah, you can do this, this, this,
right.
this.
Yeah,
These
exactly.
days, my job's too important.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
So things have changed. So like I said, we're lucky to have a nutritionist here. So I kind of get her ideas on what she thinks. We talk about eating, like I'll talk about eating and stuff, how many meals, what in between meals, stuff like that. But in terms of supplements, I don't get much into that. I think my kids do take a bit of creatine at certain times of the year if they want to. I can't tell someone to take stuff.
Right.
They kind of have to come to me. Like if you have a question, let me know about something. But if you are taking something, let me know so I know what it is, and have our nutritious people look at it and make sure it's okay for you. So
Right, because that is a big thing, whether it's college or the open division. I don't know too much in the high schools. We don't really test too much for that, but again, you get into habits that aren't too
that
good.
aren't positive, right? And that's
Yeah.
you'll see kids throw really far in high school, and the next thing they come there and they're like, "Whoa, what happened to you?" Not
Hmm.
knowing they're actually taking drugs or
Yeah.
something like, I want to
Ex-
get that scholarship. I got to take drugs. I got to throw far.
mm,
So you see it every once in a while. You'll see it every
Right.
once in a while.
How or what's your philosophy on tapering or peaking?
Um, well, we just lighten everything up. Like we'll stay aggressive with some throwing, but not as much. Like we don't kill the nervous system. So we'll pick up the intensity of our throws, but we'll take less throws. Um, from a weight room standpoint, we'll do less reps, but more active reps. And it depends on peak, how long are we peaking for. Like I had to push Jada back so far this year that I just kept pushing every week. I'm like, I kept pushing base work, base work, base work, base work. Because once your base work's gone, you got 1 or 2 weeks and that's it.
It's gone.
And
Yeah.
you're done. You got nothing. So it's finding the combination of how many reps how much weight and how much strength can I keep going or maintaining. I think it's more of a maintain thing instead of a growth thing, in terms of strength levels for throwers. You can maintain, but then you work the faster, twitchier type things a little bit more fast snatch, single arm snatch, jumping, stuff like that. But you definitely have to have a base going into whatever you're doing. And then, like I said, and you're all in your last 2 weeks, you can go all in, and then after that, you're kind of done. So, which made it hard for Jada because I had to peak it for NCAAs. NCAAs is great, but then it's like, and I kind of pushed her a little bit to get the trials. It's like, okay. But then after trials, she had nothing. We had like 3 weeks. I just shoved her in a weight room for 3 weeks. Like, you're going to feel like crap for 3 weeks. We've got to get some base back. We got to get some strength back, because I wasn't peaking her for the Olympics.
Mm.
I was picking her to get to the Olympics and win an NCAA championship. But then way in the summer, it's like, you know, I just said, you're just going to get sore for 3 weeks. I don't care how, we're just going to throw easy, easy, easy. Just get in the weight room, get in the weight room, get strong again, or as strength as we can get back. So we
Mhm.
have actually something to fall off, to kind of peak to from,
So when
peak
you
from.
got past the trials and you knew now Olympics were going to become part
Mhm.
of it, did you try to peak her for that, or did you just
Well, like I said, you're going to be in the weight room for 3 to 4 weeks,
okay?
and whatever strength we have, then we'll try to lighten you up to
Mhm.
see what you got in the tank.
Yeah,
Because you can only go to the tank so many times. And,
very true.
I don't care what event you are or this or that. So, especially in shot putting,
Mhm.
because like you have to have these certain strength levels plus the dynamic. And then when you lighten up, well, all that when you're a younger person, you can't maintain strength as well as you can as a older athlete, older open athlete. Because you can maintain your strength levels much easier because you have muscle maturity. But when you're young, you build it up and it goes away fast
Do you
That's what
find
it
the men lose, I mean, the women lose it faster than the men and that you've got to maintain
is.
more with the women?
It depends on the person, but I found it pretty equal.
Okay.
Men is let me because the women's shots lighter. I
Yeah.
mean, lighter. It's 4K. With men with the 16, yeah, young men I think lose it faster because it's just 16 pounds,
Yeah.
where it's just way heavier for them than say the women. And I think women can maintain a little bit more than the men, the younger men. Now, as they get older, um, I don't have enough high level to
Yeah.
give you an answer on that one of high level men.
Mhm.
I've had a lot of high level women. I just haven't been getting a lot of scholarship money on the men's side over my career to develop someone to that Olympic level
Right, right.
consistently to give you
What's
that answer.
what is Turner doing now?
Turner's coaching at ASU.
Okay, I knew he was coaching somewhere. I wasn't sure with he
Yeah,
was
he got
with
married. He got married, and yeah, he's quite the talent. It's just too bad he's not throwing anymore. So
so he's retired from throwing then?
yes, yes, yeah. At
Mm.
least
Now,
as far as I know, he is.
okay.
Yeah, it's hard to coach and compete.
True.
It's
Very true.
really hard to do both. He's coaching the women only at ASU.
Oh,
And
okay.
Wiley's coaching the men at ASU.
Right,
Kind of
right.
a unique situation.
What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned as a coach over the last few years?
Patience. Patience is a biggie
Yeah.
because we're all when everything get more and more competitive and higher results all over the country, every level, it's like you want to rush through sequences, you want to rush through training, you want to bypass things, and you have to stay at the level of your student athlete. You can't, there's no bypassing anything. So, and some people take longer than others.
Mhm.
Some people learn fast and other people don't learn fast. So you have to stay at the level that your student athlete is and just keep preaching just the process. And that's harder and harder because kids don't want process. They want results.
They want it
So
now.
they want it now. Um, so that's what I'm really pretty good at, is the process of it because I say in the women's shot, I've worked with 6 of the top 10 ever. And
Exactly.
so, I have that behind me now. It's like, well, hey, this person, you want to get to this level, this is what they did. Okay. So we can't bypass any of that. So I think patience is a big one. I think what people, like I said at the beginning of this, the ability to teach is everything. The more kids you work with, the more you're able to learn how to teach and what they need. You got to figure out what they need, not what you need,
There you
uh,
go.
which can be frustrating. Um, and the better student athlete you get, like when I started coaching and I got to North Carolina and I got Laura Garrity, she was a high school national record holder in the shot. Well, I had to get better. Like
Mm.
I had to get better as a coach. I had to get more information. I had to teach better. I had to listen. I had to listen better, not just go. No, you had to listen to what she had to say because she knows her body better than me. And your students, athletes know their body better than you. So you have to learn how to communicate, like difference between soreness and hurt and all those basic things. Um, and communication. Communication is everything. It's very easy to get frustrated. You can't show them that you're frustrated, um, which is very easy to do. Um, and like I said, with Laura, everyone I've ever had, like Jorinda Van Klinken, like Laura was the first collegiate shot putter, women's shot putter to make the Olympics, to
Mm.
win the Olympic trials.
Right.
So I had to get better. I was used to lower end kids. I had to get better. Well, how did I do that? Well, I started talking to other people. I started listening to her, what her needs are, because her body's totally different. She was a level 10 gymnast. Uh,
Oh,
she did a round off double backflip, weighing 180 pounds in high school on the floor exercise. She's a level 10 gymnast. So learning technique was not her problem. That was never her issue. Her issue was the ability to compete. And a quick story to that is she was so good from New Hampshire, she never had any competition. So she always won and beat everybody. And Then she got to college and it was like, oh my God, like she just started throwing horribly in meets. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, well, coach, I haven't told you this, but my gymnastics coach when I was a little girl said I'd never be good at anything because I choke.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So, yeah. Uh, so my coaching was teaching her how to compete.
Mhm.
Like, okay, like, what are we gonna do in between? So you get nervous. Okay, what are we gonna do when you get nervous? Let's do this. Let's read a book. Let's talk. Let's do this. Let's do that. And my whole teaching was learning the process. It was not hard. I mean, she understands hard work. She understands technique. She understands how to make her body move, but no idea how to compete. So that was my biggest challenge with her was was how to compete.
Mhm.
Because everyone doesn't just go in there and just do well, right?
No.
You kind of learn your way up just like anything else. And then she ended up to the point where she won the Olympic trials as a junior in college. And she came running over to me and we were way past that whole learning thing of how to compete, right? And
Mhm.
this is in '04 in Greece. I was thinking her, hey, yeah, we're going to Greece, whatever. And she goes, comes over running to me and she's like, calling my gymnastics coach, tell him to go to hell. I mean, it was just like, it was still so deep rooted. So you got to be careful on how you talk to your kids because they can take things the wrong way and it can just be bad. And you can't talk to your other students about that kid. And, you got to keep it real with your kid. And, that was one end of it. Then there's other ends that are just, you got kids that know how to compete, but you got to kick them in the butt to train. So,
Right.
um,
What's
you know,
in closing a word of advice or some words of wisdom that you'd share with these coaches?
keep learning. Don't think you know it all. Um, I've always, I was taught at a young age and like I can still learn. Like the moment I can't learn anything more, then I need to retire.
Right.
So always keep in getting knowledge and teaching that knowledge and figuring out how to teach, right? I go back to how to teach, how to teach, how to teach. What do I say? How do I say it to this personal kid? I have to say it differently than like I got it like with women, I got to communicate more with women, period.
Mhm.
Like, my wife who was, Olympian, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you coach the women different than the men. I said, yeah, they require more talk, back and forth, communication, right? They're just
Okay.
women are built different than men. Men, you can say, okay, cool, you know, or and this isn't against women or men, because if the team's kind of like this, well, men can just fight it out and let it go.
Exactly.
Women
They
can't
fester.
can't let it go. Like
I'll
ladies,
say it.
you gotta let it go.
Yeah.
Just the B word comes out a lot, and to the point where when I was at Oklahoma, I actually had women fight,
Oh, wow.
physically fight. Had a Samoan girl and inner city girl, and
Mhm.
they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I was in the parking lot. We're in the gymnastics room because I had to do gymnastics stuff with my kids. They're in the parking lot fighting. Then another time they're fighting again.
Mm.
It got to the point, it got up to the athletic administration, and I had to do all this kumbaya stuff. And oh my gosh, I got to the point, I shoved them in a locker in the coach's locker room, about 10 by 10. Do not come out until this is figured out. 2.5 hours later, I sat there for 2.5 hours.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
actually three women in there because three of them were kind of, whatever. Two and a
Uh,
half hours later, they come out, we're just being stupid, coach. I was like, yeah. And after that, they were fine.
oh wow.
It was just, yeah.
No, that's very true. That is very true. And I'll
So,
say it.
so yeah,
The
it's
guys fight and go have a beer or what
yeah,
the women, it will stick with them. Oh, and that drives me crazy too.
yeah. And so, and I know this is off topic a little bit, but I had two great women at Oklahoma who threw the exact same distance. They threw differently, and they got too competitive in training. So I actually had to move them apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trained them absolutely separately from each other, and they're friends. I mean, they weren't like mean or anything, but everything's got too competitive all the time, and they weren't getting their training done correctly. So they could keep trying to beat each other
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in
They just
everything. So I
compete.
had them train separately. I said, when you get to the meet, I just care what Oklahoma shirt on. I don't care who wins, this, that, but it's whoever has the Oklahoma shirt. I don't care. Either you two. But when I did that, they both just got so much better because they got my focus 100% of the time. And the other one
Mhm.
got my focus 100% of the time. And when you're coaching, you might have to do that because you might have drama in your group and everyone's like looking at each other like, and then now training just gone to hell because you don't have that focus and going. So I know it's off topic, but
No,
there's so
but
many
you're right.
things as
Yeah.
a coach you have to try to do off not just teaching.
Hmm.
All the, okay, what groups do I put together? Who do I recruit? Like, I
Yeah.
think recruiting to me is like building a boy band. You got the pretty one, you got the athletic one, you got the this, the that, and we try to put I have to be able to bring kids together, and they
Mhm.
kind of have to have, but then when you get too many alphas, that's when we
Oh,
have issues.
that's
And
definitely.
unfortunately, the alphas are ones that kind of throw far at my level.
Hmm.
So we talk as a group, like we have to respect each other on the track. Don't have to be best friends. When you get to this space, there will be 100% respect or you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just won't take it. Um, so I set the standards early and don't let things fester. You gotta set the table, set the rules, first day of practice, team meeting. This is what I expect. You're just gonna be the good guy or a good lady or a good girl, and then start going, you didn't set the standard. You got to set the standard of what work's gonna be like, what training's gonna be like, what the respect is for each other, blah, blah, blah. And I know it sounds a little, but it cuts off a lot of negativity
Hmm.
because they know what the standard is. And I'm not a young coach anymore. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
um,
No, I mean, you're right. Definitely.
you're a younger coach. I think you have to set boundaries. Not to be mean or anything, but this is how we're going to get better. And this is what we need to do. Do you agree with it?
Hmm.
If you're a college coach and bringing kids in, you have to state those things. It's not just all kumbaya. Like my visits, I might lose kids, but this is where you're going to live. This is where you're going to train. These are your teammates. This is blah, blah, blah. It's not about the football game. It's not about the steak dinner. It's not about that. You are like you as coaches are going to be there every day. These kids are going to have new roommates, new teammates, something new every year. But the one constant in their life every day is you,
Hmm.
right? Whether they're in a great mood, not in a great mood, hurt, not hurt, you know. So you have to understand as a coach, every day you have the most influence over them, even over their parents sometimes, because they're especially when they're in college, because you're going to see them more than their parents. You're
Yeah.
going to see them more than their family. You're going to see them more and you're going to be in touch with them more. You're going to be talking to them and communicating with them more than
Mhm.
anybody. Boyfriends, girlfriends,
Mhm.
that all comes and goes. But you are the one. And you have to realize that responsibility that you have, and you have this opportunity to make an influence in their lives. I can't tell you how many times 10 years later, coach, thank you for believing in me.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, great,
I,
great words.
yeah. And just one more thing,
Sure.
it gets serious. It gets serious. My first month of coaching ever, young lady comes to me, I'm pregnant, I can't talk to my parents. Oh, like,
Yeah.
what?
You're
First
like,
month of coaching, like, what? Is this what it's going to be about?
yep.
To the point of I had a young lady who was beaten by her father,
Mm.
lived in the forest because she didn't want to go home because her father was going to beat her. To make a long story short, she's had friends die, overdoses, this, that, to the point where she was raped. She tried to commit suicide twice.
Mm.
I was to the point where it was 3 in the morning. And I was like, because she reached out, blah, 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 blah. I said, guys, I said, my whole team, you got to find her. Like, you
Mm.
got to find her right now. I don't
Yeah.
care. Go to all the bars, go everywhere. You got to find her. And to the point where, okay, she didn't want to talk to anyone at our people at school. That wasn't going to work. So
Right.
I literally took her to find help outside of school, through a church, through someone who looks just like her, went through the same stuff as her. I was very fortunate to know some pastors and stuff that knew a lady who went through all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got them together. They looked at each other like it was a mirror. All the tattoos, the piercings, the
Mhm.
stories. And so they really figured it out. And we had a lot of, wee hour in the mornings, coach, I just can't do this. And then I was like, okay, hold on, let's talk,
Yeah.
a lot of just loving on kids.
Right.
And that was hard. I mean, that was hard. I mean, and she still ended up scoring at nationals
Mm.
after being raped and tried
Yeah.
to commit suicide. It was crazy, like just crazy. And but that after that summer, she's doing great now, which is
Well,
good.
good.
I
That's
still
good.
contact her, but she called me up and said, Coach, you saved my life. And
Yeah.
there's nothing else I can tell you, but you saved my life. And I can't be more, thankful.
That makes it all worthwhile.
That's
Definitely.
that's part of the coaching. You got to
It
deal with
is.
all that stuff. But whether they throw far or they do well in life, we're kind of there for all of it.
We're
And I think
there.
that's
Definitely.
what, if you get into this profession, you're going to have to kind of, you know,
It's 24
understand that's
hours,
part
whether
of
you
it.
like it
It's
or not.
24 hours. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
24 hours. If you're not want to be 24 hours, then,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, it's a hard deal, but the rewards are great.
Yes,
The rewards are
definitely.
great. So
Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. I think, the seriousness here at the ending, but it's still very,
yeah,
very much important
important
with
to know. Yeah.
because we see these kids a lot more than their parents in some cases,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
confide in us more. And
Hmm.
at least they have somebody to talk to. So
Yep.
thanks again for everything. Good luck with Jada and her
Yep.
season as things
Yep.
go forward.
Yep.
And coaches, thanks so much for your time tonight. And we'll see you next week.
Lily. All right. Good luck,
Thanks,
everybody.
Coach.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Go Ducks.
Yep.
Thank you, Sue.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, you.
Bye.
Thanks, Blue.
Thank you, Coach.